All right, guys. So it's been a couple of weeks. My apologies. I've been quite busy, but I want to go ahead and get this episode recorded and out. This is Monday, November 13th. I don't know where this year has gone, but I went ahead and titled this episode. Sometimes I actually get um, I do it after I actually, publish it. But the name of this episode is "May Your Flight Not Have a Loud Singing Lady on Board," and I'll describe or mention why here in a minute. Also, as a reminder, if you like what you see, please follow, please share. And I welcome your feedback because I do want to make this an interactive show. So you've got several ways. Maybe scan this barcode, tap on the subscribe or what have you, and appreciate all the support. So the reason why I named the episode this, there was a news story came out yesterday-ish, and a gospel singer, she performed on a flight. It was a Delta flight, and she argued with the crew when the flight leader asked her to sit down and hush, that she was causing a disturbance. Um, so you can Google for it. I'll try to remember to add a link here in the show notes if you want to read, all of the what happened there. But I actually have a couple of other angles on this particular story. For example, years ago when I traveled, I used I'm pretty sure I used an upgrade certificate on a flight from Atlanta to Los Angeles. I want to say the flight was slightly delayed, and we weren't sure why. In hindsight, I do remember there were five seats. So this was, I believe, possibly the 777. I believe this was a relocation flight, Atlanta to LA, back when Delta was flying the 777s. The upgrade cert cleared, but we were waiting on about five people. So close to departure, and again, I can't remember if the flight was or was not delayed. I was delayed for Missy Elliott once, by the way. That's a bit of a story. Her and her lady friend and a dog or two were up in first class, and I guess she was a little bit late, drag time, as some call it. But on this one, it was close to departure, and then there were five people ushered on board. So Delta has this service, I'll call it VIP services, that they kind of sell, but in a private way. You have to be in the know. You have to be probably in the entertainment sports biz, and you're looking to relocate a VIP. And again, I'll put that in air quotes. I'm actually going to put my glasses back on. I got these new the other day. Do like them, but it helped me read. Sorry for the glare there. So we took off, and mid-flight, so it was a lady, a man with really long hair that looked like a rock star, two children, and who I would assume is a nanny, so five people. And the two kids happened to have two center, business or Delta First or whatever they branded it at the time. And and agreed. In a moment, I'll explain that the seatbelt sign was off, but the kids started using those seats for romper room, and it was in like the first or second row up in business class. And this is about a long flight, about 4 or 5 hour flight. And at some point, one of the kids had a Matchbox car, picked it up, and threw it across the first class cabin. This Matchbox car came about this far from hitting me in the head. By that point, I'd had enough. I mean, these kids were being loud, they were being rowdy, and this actually reminds me, I had a friend recently who did a tour of the Delta Flight Museum, and he posted a really cute picture of his two kids, and I think they have two kids, and I actually made a comment, LOL, I was being nice and funny because I knew they were not actually on board, but no kids in first class. And this is the sentiment that a lot of people share with me. If you are paying full fare, if you are, in these different situations, it's not a very good experience. One of the reasons that many people will upgrade or pay to sit in first or business class is to actually get away from children. And I recall there is an airline out there, I believe, that is selling seats, even in the back of the plane, that will distance you from families with children. So I actually rang the call button because it had been enough. I mean, the kids were obviously not being controlled. I believe the nanny was actually just sitting there on their phone and not doing anything to calm these children down. And so I called the flight leader over. Well, no, I asked one of the other flight attendants, can I say hi to your flight leader when you have a moment? And she came back out. It was a very nice lady, and I understand her situation and her position before I say this. But it's still, as I told the flight leader, my mother would be mortified right now. If I were the child, my mother were sitting there and I was acting like these air quotes VIP children were acting. It was not acceptable in my opinion. Just because you happen to have an air quote VIP experience, you are not traveling on a private plane. And the flight leader, I'm not going to say exactly because this has actually been years ago. She smiled. She goes, sir, the fasten seatbelt sign is not on. And I said, I understand your position. I understand you may not be able to do anything about it. But again, I'm going to reiterate, if I were here and I was doing that, my mother would be mortified in the situation. This also draws some parallels recently to a North Georgia restaurant that is charging, parents that cannot control their children in the restaurant a fee for probably having to clean up after their kids. Is not acceptable. You chose to bring these children into this world. I can even probably go back and quote, an unfortunate quote from the Cosby Show. Bill Cosby would say, "And I can take you back out of this world." Now it wouldn't be quite that drastic, but these are the kind of sentiments that are out there. And so it goes back to the story with this lady performing on the flight and singing. But, if she was honestly a VIP, I've been on, some VIP flights before where and actually both situations. There was one situation where I did not see the VIP be escorted on board. They just happened to be sitting in first class. That was Dennis Rodman and his boyfriend, or I'll call him his daddy bear. But the other situations were with Missy Elliott, and this happened to be actually, and I didn't know at the time, it was Zoe. She was on Guardians of the Galaxy. And the other irony, I was actually watching Guardians of the Galaxy while this was going down. And I didn't put the connection together until later. I told the story to my boss the next week, and she saw I snapped a little picture, and she put it all together, and she said that was the lady. It's Zoe. One moment, I'm gonna have to Google this. I can't believe I can't remember her name, but actually, the irony. So Zoe from, let's see, that was Guardians of the Galaxy. And Zoe Saldana. So I was close there. I couldn't remember her last name. I thought it was the rock star guy with the really long hair. I believe that was her husband. And the two of them were not involved whatsoever. And the nanny could not be bothered. Now, maybe at some point she went over, and I'm also seeing that Zoe is from New Jersey. That kind of tracks back as well. A little opinion there. But anyway, it goes back to the story, no, it's not acceptable for children to use the seats as romper room to disrupt the whole flight. The parents not at least attempt, or the nanny attempt, to calm the children down. And it's also not acceptable for this lady. However, it was very interesting. If you read the article, allegedly this lady got an apology from management at Delta. I don't think I ever got anything such, but I also do not expect anything. I just voiced my opinion and moved on, and I didn't create a big scene. But now I had the opportunity to actually share the story, and a somewhat similar story, with this. Also got an opinion from a friend that I shared this, and quote, if she wants to sing and dance, she needs to fly Southwest. So I'll leave that there. All right. So that's the first bit of news. The next one, these new Delta requirements, as you might recall or followed in the past year, Delta did make the requirements slightly easier. And I want to say that there was a news story about United going out there, and I think they're going to ease their requirements up a little bit for this. But I'm going to ask Delta again, where's Tom Brady? I thought that's why you hired this guy, to go out and help smooth this over. He's just MIA. I don't honestly know what Delta paid, and I do have some Delta stock somewhere. I actually should go to investor relations, I guess. But where's Tom Brady? And actually, that sentiment is copied by a lot of employees. Especially since there were some job separations at Mother Delta here recently. So I'll leave it at that. I won't dwell on that too much. Another cool story, and if you go out to my Facebook page, My Upgrade Offer, you'll see a link out to this. I thought it was really cool. It was and I probably am murdering this, the Hezarfen flight experience. I believe this is in the Istanbul Turkish Airlines airline lounge over in Istanbul. And it was really a neat little experience. It kind of calls back to the days of pre-COVID that Delta here in Atlanta and up at JFK, they actually had a spa with massage services. You'll see that type of service now. COVID threw everything up in the air. But if you do go back to, excuse me, some of the other nicer lounges in this world we live in, especially the ones on the Asian airlines, Cathay Pacific, you've got the Japanese airlines, maybe the Korean airlines, but they have these, this whole lounge experience, arriving at the airport early, getting a nice shower room. Some of them even have tubs that I have seen friends post themselves from. And spa experiences. I believe one or two of the lounges over in London offer this, massage or spa service as well. But it's something quite different is the Hezarfen flight experience. Again, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. If you have an opportunity to go through Istanbul, as a friend, he just happened to snap a picture of this, so I'm talking about it here. Where you can actually, I believe, fly virtually over Istanbul, kind of in like a little pod, almost like a ride that you would ride down in Orlando, one of the theme parks. So check that out. And my comment to that is that's something you do not see in a North American airline lounge. Wink, wink. One of the airlines out there listening to maybe look at adding something like that. And another reminder, especially as we are going into the shopping season for the holidays. Again, this is mid-November. That is only going to ramp up from here over the next couple of weeks. And I actually, honestly, I forgot to do it. I actually put an order in for a new mouse for Walmart, and I could have gotten a couple of extra miles for that. But all the airlines, whichever is your favorite one, pretty much offer this along with their frequent flyer program, that you can go out and as you are clicking and buying online, you will get even bonus points no matter what card. So this could possibly double or triple if you were using an airline card to buy, for the holidays, that you have even miles more on top of that, depending on what the offer is. So don't leave those miles on the table. Also, remember your dining and going out to bars and so forth. A number of them happen to participate. And again, beyond, maybe those 2 miles you're getting sort of swiping the card, these are miles and above that. Delta dining, Southwest dining, JetBlue dining, all the airlines have these other, you have to hunt and look for the links. And if you haven't found it or are having trouble, message me, that make this interactive. I can try to find the link for you, but don't leave those miles on the table, especially if they're substantial, to save on those future trips. We're going to the next section, where I've been, where I'm going. So coming up in a couple weeks, a week after Thanksgiving, I do have to head up to Boston. I ended up booking at a hotel with a state employee rate. Was about the best deal there for the hotel. And then for the flight, it looks like I'm pretty much going to stick probably with JetBlue for that, because I have not been on them in a while, and I think those times match up a bit. So stay tuned for that. And I believe I mentioned on the last episode, according to my notes here, we are going to go west. If you want to cue up the Pet Shop Boys song, Go West. But we're doing Las Vegas and Palm Springs. The hotel for that whole week should probably be close to free. So there are MGM comps that I do expect to be able to match with an offer from Celebrity Cruise Lines. That's the cruise line that I cruise the most and probably my favorite. They have a offer with MGM Rewards that they can match you to their gold tier card. And I believe that gold should actually even waive the resort fees for those 4 nights that we are in Vegas. Staying at the Park MGM. Park MGM was redone a number of years ago, made non-smoking. You may know it formerly as the Monte Carlo. And it's a pretty swanky, nice little hotel, and we like the non-smoking. Neither of us smoke. Now that more and more restaurants and bars are going non-smoking, I get more and more sensitive when I smell it. Even driving down the road and someone has a whiff of that other particular smoking product there. So it's something that we're more and more sensitive to. So that restaurant, I'm sorry, the Park MGM is non-smoking completely. It's kind of unique for the Strip in Vegas. So we'll stay there, and that should be a comped visit. I do need to double check that rate. For the flights, we used the Delta Companion Cert. So the cards that you pay an annual fee for from Delta, they come with an annual Companion Cert, and that was actually a pretty good redemption. So we got 2 of us round trip Atlanta, Las Vegas nonstop. And with the Companion Cert, it came in at around 250, 300 each round trip. So and it looks like there have been a couple of schedule changes, but the latest when I looked at the Atlanta Las Vegas flight currently is on a 7067-400 that has been updated a bit, and we were able to, as a platinum medallion, immediately upgrade into Comfort Plus on a domestic experience. But if you were to fly that international, those are the newer seats from Delta that are wider. They're kind of about the same size as the domestic first class. The last time I also looked, it looks like the seats in front of the plane have been updated to, I call them a little bit mini suites, because they don't have the closing door, but they are a little nicer. And most of those seats were open. So there's probably a good chance that we will get even, the nice cushy seats for Atlanta, Las Vegas, unless there's another schedule change, because that for about a week it was scheduled on one of the LATAM A350s that Delta took on, and those do not have the exact same standards as the other. I think a comment that someone else mentioned the other day, they were flying Raleigh to Atlanta on the International 757, and there were some pretty negative comments made about that plane. The Delta has a lot of subtypes and a lot of different experiences. But anyhow, hopefully that last schedule change will stay, and that will be a nice ride Atlanta to LA. On the return, we just have it's on an A321, but I do have some pending upgrade certificates and possibly maybe some last minute changes to get us in a little better seats on the way home. So we'll see how that works out. In Palm Springs, we intend to rent a car from Las Vegas, make about that 4-hour drive, and I was able to convert a couple of points from American Express membership rewards points over to Marriott Bonvoy points. And there is a Courtyard Marriott that's kind of close to the neighborhood in Palm Springs. We're there for 3 nights, and it looks like we're going to have kind of a little circle of friends. So if any of you are looking for something last minute, maybe to get away from the family for Christmas, go west with us, right? We got probably a good 6 or 8, maybe even 10 friends, because I even know some folks over in Palm Springs if you want to join us there. All right, so then on to January. So one of those friends actually is going to bowl with me in January. So there's 4 of us, and we, I think, committed. I know I have some booked. It looks like it's probably going to be round trip on Delta. One of my friends booked the other day, and he goes, "No, I'm a Delta girl." So it looks like we're probably going to move on over to Delta and get those. I did have some Southwest flights on the return, but I'm probably going to cancel those out and get the rewards back. But going back to the American Express, I need to follow back up. The trip should happen. I redeemed some membership rewards points, But if you might recall on the last episode, I'm waiting for them to actually honor that should something happen and I need to cancel and get some of those points back. I have not heard back on that case, so I need to follow back up on that in the event that we have to do some changes. Then there was actually another postcard that came in recently. So as you may have heard, speaking back to celebrity, I guess I gambled enough on the last cruise that they deemed me a decent profit center to give some offers. So, one of the cabins on that March 21st Celebrity Silhouette cruise is just a short 4-nighter from Fort Lauderdale out to Key West and Nassau. But the one cabin that I have booked was pretty much at half price for a balcony, which is not a bad deal. And then I added on a second cabin, because I'd rather my dad and stepmom have their own cabin to enjoy themselves, and I'll have my own. But it is an open invitation. If you are not busy in March, it's a short little 4-nighter. Go and meet dad and stepmom if you want there. And then Ireland. So I did confirm with JetBlue that those upgrade certificates should clear. So I'm waiting until January, because that is the new offer there that JetBlue says they're going to change over. That when you book your seats on, and this should work, everything that I've read, there was a little sentence in one of the changes. They said that the number of certificates is dynamic. So I hope they don't pull something where all of a sudden you need 3 certificates or more. But the last offer there is on JetBlue's newer transatlantic flights from Boston and New York over to across the pond. They're also starting up Dublin service. So one of the directions, looking at flying with JetBlue, using those upgrade certs for their Mint experience, and then the other way, possibly using Air Canada and a coupon that I have for that. So we'll see if that actually works out, but probably won't book those until January, February, because that's when the change with JetBlue comes in with those Mint, move up to Mint certificates there. Speaking of deals, I'm going to try to do this on all the episodes. Just like that cruise that I booked in March, I wanted to push it out a bit because I got a lot of other stuff going on leading into the holidays. So I'm going in March. But these deals pop up, for $249 plus taxes for a 4 to 5 night cruise. You really can't beat that. And that's for an interior cabinets per person. But you're just looking for a short getaway. Most anywhere, especially from the Northeast, you can get those nonstop flights for not that expensive. Just going down, having a short little cruise, you really can't beat that. Now, the cruises that are around the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, those are going to be higher. But in between those, you can find some good deals if you have a little bit of flexibility. Maybe looking to burn some time off before the end of the year. I actually had a friend that was in that situation recently, and he was looking for something to do. And there are all sorts of Black Friday travel deals. I actually posted one from Cunard. I believe that's $7.99 plus taxes. But not actually, the taxes on Cunard are a little bit lower, because especially on those transatlantic. So it's a 7-night transatlantic from either New York to London, Southampton, or Southampton back to New York. You really can't beat that at $800 or $900 per person for a week cruise. Now that is a very different experience, and this kind of echoes a friend of mine that just went, I believe, on Seabourn with recently. It was a bit more of a formal experience. So on Cunard, expect 4 to 5 nights. Almost, you don't have to wear a tuxedo, but they probably will enforce that British upscale experience there. So you will have to pack a little bit more. Maybe your baggage fees are a little bit higher, or you may have to add to your wardrobe. But if you want that kind of experience, I did do a transatlantic once. It was a lot of fun. I will say I did get a little bit seasick one day. We hit some high seas in the North Atlantic, but it was, at the time, a 6-night cruise on the Queen Mary 2. But it was a great time away with me and Mom. Met a number of other people on board, and I do recommend those if it's something different. And maybe extend the travel. So some people actually do not like flying, and they literally use Cunard for transportation, back and forth between Southampton and New York. It takes a while, but maybe they're older and they just have the time, and that's what they choose to do. But you could extend that. So maybe you want to go to London first, stay a couple of days, cruise back, or cruise over, stay a couple of days, and then fly back. So these are just all ideas that are out there if you're looking for something unique, or maybe something to gift to a family member, parents, grandparents, or so forth, right? As I said, just to shout out to the what I'm calling the upgrade fund. If you go over to Patreon and Peach News, you've got. I want you to pay your own bills first. I want you to have a good Christmas. I want you to. But if you have something left over and you like what you hear, just chip in a little bit to that upgrade fund. Also, in addition to that, if you're, and I've taken advantage of a number of these. Chase Bank, they've got a number of promos out there in the hundreds of dollars. You've got another $300 promo from Delta Community Credit Union. Yes, yeah. If you can, have the organization skills, to follow the promo and the terms of the promo, it's easy money. And just, so you maybe turn around and use for one of your trips. Or points. So also the credit cards out there, they've got all those sign up bonuses. Get those points and use them. Might as well save on the travel and not have to come out of pocket for everything there. And then lastly, feedback. So any feedback, I welcome comments. Hopefully I haven't missed any comments on the previous episodes. Some of these come from chat interactions. I reach out to friends and so forth. Or if you want to email, robert@peachnews.co. Glad to take feedback and make this more interactive. But this comes from my friends over at the Airline Pilot Guy show. And their last episode 593, there was a, and I take this from an experience of being an educator in the past, both in the corporate world and in college. And at times I would gripe about my students, but I typically would not go on berating and literally taking pictures of the student. But there's a little video that and there, if you happen to go to that episode, I'll post a link here in the show notes. It's the importance of the student-instructor relationship, and it is quite disturbing, honestly. Some feedback, a friend of mine said, even in the aviation business, crazy what a dick that guy was. And I think posting stuff like that on social media is too over the line. I agree. And again, within a closer circle of friends at times, I will admit that I have, griped about my former experiences as an educator or students, but I did not go out and take pictures of them. I did not actually, have a video where they were sitting across the room or even in the same, this is a pilot and a instructor in a small Cessna plane. And he has literally got videos of, griping about the student. That it's not professional. And I agree with my friends over on the Airline Pilot Guy show. It was not professional, and not something you should do. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll leave the link in the show notes if you want to go over and check it out. For any of you that may be educators or have, you kind of wear that hat maybe sometimes, just, maybe look at the man in the mirror and watch and listen to yourself for a minute. And then think, would my mother agree with what I, put out there for an opinion like that? And maybe that instructor needs to find a new line of business. Now, I will say that I have looked into, becoming a pilot. My window of time is kind of gone for that. I still feel like, especially all the money and that would have to go into becoming a pilot. But I do believe that as you are going through your progression of learning more and more about being a pilot, at some point you become a CFI, a certified flight instructor. And then you're expected to kind of continue passing that knowledge down to the new people that are coming into that line of learning. So even if you're forced into it, this is not something, if you're a certified flight instructor, this is not something you just woke up one day and decided, oh, I'm going to go out and fly planes for a living. No, this is something that you thought about and you've worked towards. And honestly, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and understand the place and And I've dealt with a number of other people like this in the past, whether they were managers, because IT people are known for not being the nicest people in the world either. If you were to compare a pilot to an IT person. And I probably come across a little bit odd sometimes too, but I try not to. um, I also let me kind of turn this around another way too. And there was a political podcast where I was able to have some of these in-depth discussions with another educator as well. At some point, you have to, um, is there a grade in the class or pass fail or something like that? You have to know how to pass that feedback along to the student. Um, if you do not, and there is a risk here, if you do not, if you just say that the sky is blue and everything's fine, the glasses half full, and you just some fear that education has become too much of that, and I guess that's true in some situations where we have kids that are going through grade school and so forth, and they're not progressing like they should. But on the other hand, treating or teaching failure, and not purposely failing someone. When I think all the students that I taught in college along the years, it was a small minority that I had to fail. And these were students that pretty much just, it was one of two boats. You had a student that they just didn't care, or you had a student that they didn't care and they actually were trying to do literally the least amount of work to get passed in a class. Those people, they got the F that they were going to get. But by and part, I mean, I passed, and also you had some students that would argue that I should have gotten an A when I got a B, or I got a C and I should have gotten a B on things. Okay, we can sit down and talk about why. But in those situations, if I showed you what the A student did versus what you as a C student did, there has to be a grade. Otherwise, we just go to this weird pass fail thing that some people did during COVID. But that's going down a long. But it really, if this is something that kind of rings a bell or resonates with you, I would encourage you to go back to my friends over at Airline Pilot Guy. Not only do they share some of the video that really has the actual footage from the guy's Snapchat account, and there are several different lines of commentary, and it really resonated with me, especially also with that recent podcast episode that I did as well. So that's enough. I'm not going to bore you more. I'll get this buttoned up. Thanks for your patience with me, because it's just pretty much a one-man show here, and hopefully you're still enjoying the content. Talk to you all soon.